So, Soul just came out, and if you saw it like we did, then you're probably still kind of thinking about it because it was a pretty thought-provoking film for a Pixar film. For me, I really enjoyed it. I would say that Soul is like in the top 4 for me. And those aren't necessarily like ranked 1, 2, 3, 4. I think Incredibles and Coco would be ranked like in the number 1 spot for me. And then Ratatouille and Soul would be ranked like in the number 2 spot for me, tied.
Nice.
Because Pixar movies are so good. And it's like they all have like a different lesson to learn from them. And depending on when you watch them and who you're with, some can come at like the right time, and affect your perception of it. And for me, I feel like Soul kind of came at the right time for me. And like probably a lot of people right now with everything that's going on with like the pandemic and just like, if you're a viewer that's my age, you kind of grew up with the Pixar films, and it kind of was really just on the nose of like maybe what some people are feeling existentially right now. Cause it's like, I know like sometimes I get caught up like thinking about like my purpose, like what am I doing here? Like, why does this matter and whatnot? And like what I took away from Soul is like, sometimes you just have to like breathe, because I mean, if you can't find your purpose, like that's all right. Like sometimes it's cool to just like enjoy what life has to offer, and that no matter what you do, like you're gonna at least touch a couple people in your life in a positive way, and in the end, like, isn't that worth it, to stick around? And that like really stuck with me, and it like kind of gave me like a more positive outlook on life.
Yeah, this movie, it causes you to think about these questions of purpose and your role essentially on this earth. Like, what are you here for, in a very interesting way. And like it's a kids movie essentially, right? It's a Pixar movie, it's a cartoon,
debatable.
it's animated, but it asks these questions of you that like for kids, you're not like, most kids are not thinking about these questions. Most adults are not thinking about these questions. Most adults kind of, we go about our lives and we it's easy for us to slip into autopilot, and we go from day to day and we're just doing what we need to do, right? But something like this causes us to pause. It causes us to take a moment to reflect on who we are and like what it is that we're doing here. And I think it's interesting because this hits people in different ways. And so I think that the interpretive aspect of this movie is one of the very interesting things about it. I love hearing what people got out of this movie, because it seems like it's different from person to person.
Agreed. Like, for me, the philosophy of this movie is something that I think a lot of people could benefit from. Just introducing those questions, like what is your spark, what is your purpose, and if you feel like you don't have one, you don't necessarily need one to feel alive, to want to be alive, and to want to experience nice things in life. And I think it's a very nice message for people who are still lost. I mean, like, I feel honestly, unless you're like in that 1% of people who just know what they want to do in life, which is very rare, you will feel lost at some point in your life. And I think for me personally, like, there's still a lot that I need to discover. So the message was, it hit home, basically.
Yeah, I think for me, one thing that really stood out for me, other than the message of gratitude, like just be grateful for life. And that's like, I guess in some ways that's the way I took it, as what's the meaning of life, is just appreciating it. But to me, the biggest one that really hit to me was this idea of arriving somewhere, right? Because sometimes we have goals, and it seems like the point of having a goal, it's like we just have a goal just to complete it. But it's never like we have it just to like actually enjoy it. It's just like, it's almost like our purpose is just to get there. And then once you get there, you're like, then what's next? You know what I'm saying? what's next, and you're always looking for what's next. But Soul's answer is really just like, you already have arrived. It's just about enjoying what you've arrived.
That was the most, for me, that was the most profound moment in this movie, was the moment after his performance with Dorothea. And he's standing there. He's like, I thought that I would feel something different. I thought that this would be more fulfilling. But that moment kind of just...
And then the metaphor with the old fish and the young fish.
Exactly.
Yeah, in a roundabout way, it's kind of like, oh, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey and all that. But you know, a little bit different. And I think they just touched on so many themes. I mean, there's like the overall theme, but then there's also like bits of like family, expectation, you know, and all the outside factors that can determine like kind of your choices and like what you do in your life. And that was like really interesting seeing. I think a lot of people maybe have experienced, you know, like the kind of the dissonance between like what they want to do and what they feel like they're obligated to do, and like the pressure from society and their parents. Touching on that was like pretty heavy for me. Like, you know, I was definitely like feeling some type of way when he was talking to his mom. And another thing, I don't know, this might have been just something that I took away from this, but kind of in the You seminar, I feel like they kind of touched on the idea of like maybe comparing yourself to others that are like super successful and have done like crazy, like positive things for the world and the environment, with like the You seminar being hosted and taught by like, you know, influential people in history.
Right.
And then number 22 not really being like, I don't know, like inspired by that. I feel like she kind of had like in some way like a defeatist attitude, like during those You seminars, and even later when she was like talking about life and not wanting to do it. And I think a lot of people go through that too, where like they're a little bit defeatist and like maybe they compare themselves to others and be like, I could never be on that level. I'm not even gonna try like doing that. I'm not even gonna like live life. I'm just gonna like be useless and all that. But I don't know, just
I
seeing
think
like that character arc where she like kind of like lets go of that and starts enjoying like the smaller things in life instead of like trying to find the purpose and the spark, like that was really powerful to me.
Yeah, I think 22 represents basically, you know, people that have those insecurities where they compare themselves to like the greats, and it's like, why can't I be like them? Or even like society comparing people to them, and the expectations are just way too large to handle for anybody, and it sort of makes you feel trapped. It sort of makes you feel like in that scene when she became a lost soul and Joe went to rescue her, like we heard all them bashing her for her behavior because she wasn't good enough, basically. So it's
and that was all her own insecurities too, in the form of like those greats.
But it's just an interesting juxtaposition to have. It's sort of like the message that I interpret is like, you don't have to be one of those greats all the time. You can just like enjoy life for what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. It was such a heavy movie, I think. And it was even like, I think of all the Pixar films, kind of the most open to interpretation. And it even had like at the end, like the most open ending of all the Pixar films, I feel like, because it's like, oh, like what happened in 22? Whose body did she end up in? Like, of course, I don't know. Would she be a baby? I don't know. And like, what was gonna happen to like the guy? Like, where was he gonna go with his life? But at the end, like, I didn't feel unsatisfied because I felt like the character was satisfied and like kind of found like a little bit of enlightenment, and like I felt happy for him, and it was pretty satisfying ending for me. I never once during a Pixar film feel like, I don't know, any negative feelings. They're always like really feel good, and like, I don't know, you always learn something in the best way.
Yeah, I think this is like one of my favorite things about great films or great art is that it's thought-provoking, but not in a way that is on the nose or just me telling you the ideas or theme.
Not being too preachy or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, they definitely have confidence in their viewers. Like they like trust us to like make our own inferences, and it makes you feel like smart, and like it makes you feel, I don't know, like you said, it's just good filmmaking to like kind of be able to have these conversations after the fact about a film like that.
Good writing, good story.
Good story, good soundtrack. I really enjoyed what Trent Reznor and Atticus Finch did with all the like synthy sounds that were from like the great before, and then obviously all the jazz parts were really insanely good, which I don't know, it definitely, all the music was very intentional and like made me feel the way I was supposed to feel in every scene. I went into this movie thinking it was going to be all about like a love letter to jazz and music, but it was so much more. It was actually like shocking, like watching this whole movie and like feeling the roller coaster of emotions that I did. And I just wasn't expecting it all. They really didn't give anything away in the trailer. Like when he turned into a cat, I was like, what? Everyone in there was like, what's going on? It definitely blew me away. And I hope it did to like a lot of other people. I think if you didn't feel like positive things watching this movie, like I urge you to watch it again, because it was, I don't know, a lot of love went into this film. I feel like, I think also like the voice acting, there was super strong performances by like everyone in this film, like all the Jerrys and like the great before and Terry Time, like I loved her. Yeah, I just think, I don't know, I could go on and on. I think it's a great film.